Hi, if you're watching this, you probably suffer from cystic hormonal acne, and I feel you. I did for many, many years. I was put on birth control time and time again, even though I deliberately would tell doctors that I wanted to heal it naturally. I will cover in this video how my hormonal acne disappeared, what worked, what didn't work, and let's jump in. So this is how it looked at its most severe, and I'm going to play a clip of my skin now, what it looks like without makeup, because I do wear some makeup like to cover scarring and eye makeup when I film. So this is me without any makeup. As you can see, there is one guy right there because I'm about to be on my cycle, and nothing here, just scars, nothing there, just scars. Yeah, one's it. I'm fine with that, especially right before your period. And of course, I do just want to say that there is nothing inherently wrong with having skin that our society does not deem flawless. None of us have flawless skin all of the time. The reason why I'm shooting this video is not for more of like an appearance sake or, how to look a certain way. It's more because when we have acne, it's usually a symptom or a sign pointing to something happening in our body, such as a gut health issue, inflammation, or hormonal imbalance, or other things. I highly recommend working with a doctor or a nutritionist who specializes in this kind of thing, such as PCOS. I do not have PCOS. I am what's called sort of on the border of it, and maybe that's you too. You can talk to a healthcare provider of that, where you don't really qualify by the blood work actually having PCOS, but maybe your blood sugar or other, like sex hormones aren't exactly what maybe the average person might have. But either way, acne is usually assigned to something else going on. And PCOS can also present very differently depending on the person. That's why it's really important to work with a doctor. And I have worked with both traditional Western medicine as well as nutritionists, as well as naturopathic doctors, and then also just doing a ton of research on my own. I'm not an expert or healthcare provider. I'm just a person sharing what worked for me and what I've learned. And of course, some people may prefer to take birth control. That is totally fine. It's just not something that I wanted because I didn't like how my body felt on it. Now, let's get into what didn't work and then what did work. What didn't work was trying to force the acne to go away with strict diets, lots of supplements, meditating, all of these things that can work, but doing them while living a very hectic and fast-paced, stressful lifestyle. It was sort of like being in a boat trying to get the water out while there was a hole in the bottom of the boat leaking. What ultimately worked was doing significantly less and reducing my stress and other things to change how my body and my system, I think, were reacting to the world and my environment. So we're gonna cover in depth how to do this, because I know how annoying it is when people say don't stress or stress less, as if it's that easy or as if it didn't occur to you. And especially for some of us, stress is as easy as breathing when we're on, the anxiety spectrum. So let's get into that. I don't think you can force yourself to not stress, but I think there's a few things that you can do to reduce stress in your life. For example, doing less was the number one thing that helped me. And the pandemic did help with that. It did help me learn how much that would change how my body feels. Of course, I was very lucky to be able to work from home. A lot of essential workers, we appreciate you. And I know for them, that stress moved in a different direction. They weren't slowing down. They were going into a stressful environment every day. Now, with that said, all of the extra optional things for all of us were stopping, like the constant social events, the birthday party for a friend of a friend, going to that, book reading, all of the stuff that we love, but they kept us kind of going constantly from thing to thing. That stopped. And I think that was ultimately what helped my body the most, because I live in New York City And there's never an end of things to do there. And, you know, constantly being on the train, running from a meeting to a social event, to a client, to an audition. You know, I do several different things here, and that's a blessing, but it's not, no day was constant. It felt like trying to sprint on a waterbed, the way I was living my life. And taking those lessons I learned during, you know, 2020 and the beginning of 2021, as things do start to open up in certain areas. I know some areas are still really struggling, and I want to acknowledge that. But taking those lessons and applying them now is really, I think, what's helped keep my skin clear. For example, an audition came my way that I really wanted to shoot for, but I just didn't have it in me to memorize 2 different scripts right now while I'm going through a pretty bad foot injury, which is impacting my work as a trainer, and I'm getting ready to go on a trip. And at the same time as I'm starting a business, I've talked about that before on here, so I just had a lot going on, and I emailed the director and was like, I can't do this week, you know, I can't get this back to you in time. My apologies, I wanted to be upfront with you. And they said that they still wanted me to read for it in a couple weeks if I have time, which was amazing and rare that that happens, but I was willing to walk away from something for that inner peace that I would never have done before, until I realized how much just going was impacting my body and not just my mind. I thought that maybe it was just mental stress, and I didn't understand, you know, which is ironic because I write and coach on this, the interconnection between, you know, mind and body. They're really one, but sometimes we can't feel that stress in our body. We don't notice it. We just see the symptoms of it, you know, with things like the acne. Now, other examples of saying no. There was a networking event that I really wanted to go to, and I was just like, you know what? Cost benefit. I do not feel, this was a few weeks ago, I do not feel that I will be my best self at this. I do not feel up for it, and I do not want to go. And in the past, I probably would have forced myself to go, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to end the day with some tea and some reading. That, you know, things like cooking, things like being out in nature, having a real strong community, like a smaller group of people, as opposed to a bunch of loose ties that you're trying to run around and meet up with all of the time. Doing things that make you feel so grounded in your life and your body. You know, my plants, having a clean, minimalistic living space. Not even necessarily minimalistic, but just a clean space where I, you know, can see everything I need. It's not cluttered. Doing things that just make you feel good. As somebody who always focused more on achievement or other things like, you know, social events, those things that just, the kind of cozy home things are never what spoke to me. It could really be anything. I think if you make a list of like 20 things that will just help increase calm in your life, and you maybe choose the top 5 that will make the biggest impact, and making sure at least one of those is doing a bit less, I would be curious how this works for you. I do want to acknowledge that not everyone can slow down. Like if you are a mother with, you know, a single mother working 2 jobs, it may not be an option. But this is especially for people that their stress is self-imposed. Like for myself, I had a lot of self-imposed deadlines. Another thing that reduced my stress was when I published my book and I wasn't so worried about how it would, you know, be received or things like that, or the editing process. A lot of things just really shifted for me when my acne went away. A lot of these examples may seem somewhat random, but I know that you have certain things in your life that you know that you can take down a notch when needed and do that kind of self-care. And if you do have a fast-paced lifestyle that you are unable to change right now, I think what would work is a very multi-pronged approach. So an anti-inflammatory way of eating, you know, supplements that, you know, you're working with a professional on, making sure your gut health is in check, doing certain things to reduce stress, kind of like I was describing before, whether that's meditation or journaling, just not trying to force it and not blaming yourself when you do have acne despite all of this, because sometimes we really can't help the extra stressors in our lives. We can only help how we react to them or how we conduct ourselves in the face of that. And I do empathize with wherever you're coming from. Currently, now that I am back in New York and things are starting to pick up again, I am using this approach. I mostly don't eat gluten, dairy, sugar, all of that stuff, but it's not coming from a forceful place, and it actually has nothing to do with my acne. It has to do with, I'll be transparent with you, my gut, I can tell when I eat a certain way that things are just healthier down there. And, you know, I don't drink caffeine, but again, it's not for the, you know, acne reduction, but I do think that it kind of helps with that. It helps with how everything is reacting with my body and reducing that heightened alert state that a lot of us are in. I personally don't drink caffeine. I have in another video just to help with sleep and other things. So you might have to come at it at a lot of angles if you're not really able to slow down. Like, not everybody has that luxury. Again, this is something that is more long-term, but really focusing on community, because I do think that you can just relax a little bit more when you feel that you have a support network of people that are there for you, even if it's small. When you just feel connected with just a few people that you know and trust, and that may take a while to build. We can't just snap our fingers and have that. It takes time to build that trust and build that community and choose the right people. Some closing thoughts and to recap and tie things together. I said my acne disappeared rather than how I cured my hormonal acne, because ironically, it was when I did less, not things to force the acne to go away, that it did go away. I realize slowing down may not be an option for some. And while on one hand, I want to acknowledge that, and on the other hand, I would like to challenge you to ask yourself if there are still things you can do to take things a bit slower. However, at the very least, even if there's not, what is applicable is seeing the connection between mind and body, that it is not only what we eat or what we put on our skin or doing things like washing our face that could cause or not cause physical manifestations such as acne. I want it to be one more voice saying, I cleared my skin without medication. If you are like me and sick of being told that it is the only way and are curious of anyone else who went a different way, sometimes I get concerned that it could just come back at any point, because it did sort of suddenly just disappear. But I wanted to go ahead and shoot this video and share, because I saw a video that helped me on this topic, connecting stress to acne, several years ago. And if that video helped me, then possibly one like this or others could help you. Connection, community, lowering expectations, slowing down, not being so hurried, potentially with those self-imposed deadlines or stress, and not living for others' expectations, but taking one's own peace and well-being into the equation, I believe can help. The last thing that helped, I think, was getting older. Our hormones change constantly throughout the decades and years. And so when I was 22, you know, my hormones and body is different than it is now. You will notice that your body changes over time. And sometimes certain hormones get, you know, lower, and I'm not going to get too far into that here, but some people may notice that just as we get older, sometimes the acne goes away, whereas some people enter a new decade and suddenly they have it. So that can also be a factor, which is not in our control. Let me know what your all's thoughts are. Let me know what has worked for you. If this was helpful, normally my videos are on either how-tos kind of like this, or self-development or psychology. I try to loop all of those different things into the videos. If you want to join our community, go ahead and hit subscribe. Would love to have you here. Have a great week and good luck on your journey of feeling more vibrant by possibly doing less.